Welcome back to Opening Statements. Glad to be along with you. I'm Ted Rowlands in for Julie Grant today. Christmas Eve 2002, 27-year-old Laci Peterson went missing. She was 8 months pregnant with her first child, a little boy named Connor. Her disappearance sparked a massive search in Northern California and across the country. Then 4 months later, the remains of Laci and Connor began washing ashore in the San Francisco Bay. Her husband, Scott, was arrested days later as he was near the Mexican border in San Diego. His hair was dyed. People thought he was maybe going to run. He was convicted of 2 counts of first-degree murder in 2004. It was quite the spectacle outside of the courthouse. Take a listen.
State of California versus Scott Peterson. We, the jury, in the above entitled cause, find the defendant, Scott Lee Peterson, guilty of the crime of murder of Laci Denise Peterson.
Peterson was sentenced to death later. That was overturned because of an issue with the trial judge, Judge DeLucchi, and the way they went through the voir dire process. But he's serving a life sentence, still fighting for a new trial. Joining us now, a special guest on this Tuesday, former Court TV correspondent and host of ID's Curious Case. It's Beth Karas. Beth, great to see you. It's one of those cases you just keep talking about because it's inherently, it just doesn't go away. Part of the reason it doesn't go away is because he doesn't go away. He and his family really are hell-bent on getting him out and believe that he was wrongly convicted. Are you surprised that is still going on, that's still fighting for his release, that they truly believe, it seems, that he didn't do it?
You know, Scott was sentenced to death in March of 2005. So it's been 20 years since he was sentenced. His sentence was overturned, as you said, 15 years after that. But he has a family that is so compassionate about him and believes in his innocence. Not just that there wasn't enough proof beyond a reasonable doubt, because we do see guilty people go free because there's not enough proof. They believe he's the wrong person who was tried. But there's another school of people who lived through that trial and saw it. I'm one of them who believes that the jury got it right. I'm not offended by the overturning of the death verdict and giving him life without parole, because that's fine. I mean, he was going to do life anyway, since they don't really execute in California anymore. There's been a moratorium for almost 20 years in California. But his family is just so dedicated to pursuing their opinion, justice, by getting him freed, that I guess I'm not that surprised. I mean, his cousin, Janie, was it cousin or sister-in-law?
Sister-in-law,
Janie went to law school. Yeah, sister-in-law went to law school to help fight for him. I mean, that's pretty amazing.
Absolutely.
I think they should do whatever they can. I just don't know if they're going to prevail. I don't think they will.
Yeah, the odds are always long. Well, Janie will always, whenever I talk to her and go through, well, about this or this, and her response is, and I'll ask you this, how did he do it? How did Scott kill Laci? What do you think happened? Because Rick DeStasso, remember, he told the jury, we don't know how, we don't know when, and where exactly, but we know he did it. What do you think? How did he do it?
So I just want to say that very argument, those words you're uttering, were uttered by Cheney Mason in Casey Anthony's trial, and that was a winning argument for them. We don't know how, we don't know when, we don't know who, but it wasn't a winning argument in Scott Peterson's case. The prosecution doesn't have to prove how it happened. They know it was a soft kill, meaning it wasn't a stabbing or a shooting. There was no blood left behind. It was in her own home. Her decomposed body was found, so they can't tell if she was strangled because the telltale signs of strangulation were no longer present in the remains that were found. I suspect it was a suffocation or strangulation as she was undressing. It appears that, because one item she had been wearing when she was getting her hair done on December 23rd, late afternoon, with her sister at a half-sister salon, one of those items was in the hamper. And so, but she was wearing, maternity pants, I can't recall if they were light-colored pants. I can't recall if her sister said she was wearing dark or light pants, but it appears that a theory is that she was getting changed, and he may have come up behind her, strangled her, or suffocated her, or something. But it happened in the house, probably that night.
The case itself, as it played out, the defense was doing Mark Garagos took over the courtroom. There was, it seemed reasonable doubt. You remember the juror Justin, I forget his last name, was booted, and he was like, "Oh, I don't think he did it. I don't think." Then Amber Frey walked into that courtroom, and the jury heard those tapes. To what extent was this case about his conduct before and after the murders? Or the murder, yeah, murders.
It was all about that. It was all about that. Justin Falconer, that was his name.
Yes.
And he's given an opinion. Once he got booted, he's talking to us and other networks based on only a fraction of the evidence, right? Because the trial was 6 months total from beginning of opening statements to the death verdict was 6 months. He didn't know that much about the case, yet he said he's not guilty. Well, it was all about his behavior. Really, his behavior leading up to it and right after is critical. And as they were searching the bay for the boats were out there, and Scott, the police had a tracking device on Scott's vehicle, and he was using a rented vehicle, and he would race out to the bay, which was like 90 miles or so from where he lived, and he would just watch what the police boats were doing, not ask anybody. He wasn't near the police. He wasn't asking them. They knew where he was. He'd just watch and then leave. We think, right, police thought, or prosecutors thought, because he wanted to see where they were looking in the water, was it close to where he had been with his boat and where he dumped the bodies? So why isn't he going up to the police saying, "Hey, what's going on? Any luck? What do you think?" Right? And he was concerned when they had found something that turned out to be an anchor. Remember, there was a recording because they were recording his phone, and his mother had said to him, "You wouldn't be so stupid as to dump her body in the bay." It was just an anchor, and he was relieved. Those are, I think, two different calls. But there were so many different things. Laci's friends said when they got called down to the police station on Christmas Day, Scott went with them, but then he didn't want to go in to talk about, like, who would do this and what was going on in her life, like who would want to disappear, this pregnant woman. And he said he had dog poop on his shoe and he didn't want to go in. And they're like, "What? Your wife is missing. Come in the police station with us." And he went in, stood in the back, and didn't say much. His behavior when they were searching for her, he was supposed to be posting flyers. They found him just sitting in his truck, not posting flyers. He's talking to Amber Frey. I mean, Amber Frey was the turning point, right? I mean, he's pretending to be in Europe when he's at the vigil for his wife. He didn't want to be up on the stage with his family, crying and pleading for whoever has her to bring her back. And he's there, just sort of with the crowd, talking to Amber Frey. Come on.
Now, it was, well, let's listen to some of that. Here's a recorded conversation between Scott and Amber. Amber, at this point, is working with Modesto PD because she knows who he is. He doesn't know that she knows, and he's talking.
I just need to tell you how much I care about you. I desire so much to be, for the rest of our lives, your best friend, your biggest comfort, the second most joy in your life. I want to see those things so bad for you.
Is it fair to say, Beth, you take that out of the equation, then he possibly walks? You take Amber out. If you take Amber Frey out of it, think about the case in the trial. No Amber Frey, no recordings. It's a huge part of it.
It is a huge part of it, and it provides a motive, although there are those who say he really wasn't planning a future with Amber, but I don't know. I don't know. But I still remember Craig Grogan, he was a lead detective. He had that list of like 40 things that were all suspicious. Well, Amber's just one or two of the things on the list, right? Amber and whatever she was able to give to the investigation. There's lots of other behavior. At the time, the dog evidence was also considered pretty compelling. There has been, some scaling back of that, I believe. But there still was other evidence against
the fact that her body was in the bay. Yeah, I mean, the most compelling evidence, that's when they pulled the trigger on the arrest. when she turns up in the place where he put himself.
Correct.
Because he had to. He thought he was seen. The fishermen were watching him load the boat. And he had the ticket, so...
Correct.
Yeah.
And he had the parking he had the receipt from parking, and then, you know, putting his boat in the water, and they said he was a little awkward doing it. He had just bought it. Why? There were so many bodies of water. Remember at the trial, there was testimony about how many different lakes there were between Modesto and the bay. He could have gone and tested the boat and gone fishing any number of places, and then he goes fishing without saltwater fishing gear and tackle. He didn't have the right gear for fishing for sturgeon, and I don't think it was the season for sturgeon either. So, I mean, when the police asked him, what were you fishing for? You know, that night when Laci was reported missing, he said sturgeon. I think he hesitated, and then he said sturgeon, and they're like, yeah, this is weird, you know, so.
And it was a 14-foot boat.
Besides Amber Fry.
The boat was tiny. It was a 14-footer. The bay is nasty. And if this is your first time out with a boat of that size, that's the last place you want to put it. You might as well drop it in the, you know, the ocean. Yeah, it's very risky.
Right, risky. I mean, I mean, I know it was misty. It wasn't great weather that day. It was a little bit wet out, but I don't remember if it was really choppy waters. But yeah, it was risky for him. And the irony is, like, he gets convicted a few years later, and he's sentenced. When he's sentenced to death, he's at San Quentin, and San Quentin overlooks the bay where he had dumped his wife.
Yeah, it sure does. And now he's over at the Mule Creek State Prison, where he will likely spend the rest of his life if he is unsuccessful in terms of his appeals. Beth, always great to see you. Hope you're well. Enjoy the rest of 2025 and the rest of the holiday season. And be sure to watch Beth Karas, ID's Curious Case of, season premiere January 12th, also streaming on HBO Max. Beth Karas, thank you.